Alec Baldwin's Rust trial started Wednesday. The actor faces one count of involuntary manslaughter for fatally shooting 42-year-old cinematographer Hannah Hutchinson nearly 3 years ago on the set of Western film Rust. At the heart of this case, did he pull the trigger or did the gun misfire? Baldwin says no. He's maintained his innocence all along. In opening statements, prosecutors attempted to paint Baldwin as reckless. Prosecutor Belinda Johnson had this to say. Let's watch.
When someone plays make-believe with a real gun in a real-life workplace, and while playing make-believe with that gun violates the cardinal rules of firearm safety, people's lives are endangered, and someone could be killed.
Now, on the other hand, the defense argued that the film's armorer and the first assistant director are the ones to blame, saying the gun shouldn't have been loaded and it passed through their hands before getting to Baldwin. Alex Spiro said, quote, "This was an unspeakable tragedy, but Alec Baldwin committed no crime. He was an actor acting, playing the role of Harlan Rust. These are not cardinal rules on a movie set." Baldwin came into this case with a win in the pretrial hearing. On Monday, the judge ruled that the actor's role as a producer of the movie could not be presented to the jury because it's irrelevant to the case. Now, that move was a setback for the prosecutors, who were expected to say that Alec Baldwin bore responsibility for ensuring safety on the set because he was the co-producer. Now, the trial is expected to last 8 days, and if convicted, he could get 18 months in prison and a $5,000 fine. It's unclear whether Baldwin will take the stand. So, this case has attracted significant national media attention. Obviously, a tragic death at its heart. The dysfunction on the set of this movie has been pretty well documented. I do, for what it's worth, from what I've read about it, it did seem that the significant fault did in fact lie with the arms specialist on the set, who was very inexperienced and very
I think she was
careless.
like overworked, and she was doing like multiple projects. I was a public defender in a previous world, so like this falls a little in my alley. Mm-hmm. I'm really surprised that they charged Baldwin in this. I get that you're never supposed to point a gun towards someone, but this wasn't supposed to be a loaded gun. This was supposed to be a prop. Like, as someone who has been a gun owner before, and like I feel comfortable around guns, I would treat a prop gun in a movie very differently than a loaded weapon at a gun range.
Right. What the prosecution has to demonstrate is that he should have known it was loaded, or that he had. Now, them taking out from the case the fact that he's the co-producer, I think does damage the case, because I could see the argument that he was responsible for making the set be safe. I mean, when even when you're using prop weapons, you got to have safety standards, and that is the job of that person on set, the armorer.
Exactly.
So again, I do think the principal blame clearly lies there. If you were to say he is somewhat at fault for how chaotic the set was, how overworked the person was, could be civilly liable.
For sure.
To be criminally liable, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's a real attenuated circumstance. And if you're going to start holding like producers criminally liable for anything that happens on movie sets in Hollywood, like, can you imagine?
Well, yeah, but people don't usually die on set. I mean, somebody died here, right? That's not a typical circumstance.
It's not a typical circumstance, but I mean, there's a reason you hire the armorer, and they're responsible for handling weapons. Whether it's a gun or a knife or whatever kind of the weapon is on set, they're the person responsible for it.
Yeah.
Baldwin, I think this is more of just the media landscape and a prosecutor trying to,
And the armorer, by the way, was convicted.
She was.
Yeah, she was sentenced to 18 months in prison. So, that's the one who...
They got their pound of flesh.
So this is...
The question is this movie going to come out?
I don't think so. This movie will never come out.
You don't think it'll ever come out?
I don't think so.
Somewhere in some like back random website, this movie's gonna come out, and I wonder whether people are gonna watch it just for the weird kind of backstory to it. It's almost like, remember The Crow?
What?
Remember the movie The Crow?
I don't.
Okay, so back in the 90s, there was a movie The Crow. The main character died in a similar instance, and the movie was still released. It was Brandon Lee, who was the son.
Oh, I did. Yeah, I know about that.
Yeah, and he died during the filming of the movie in a very similar circumstance. The gun fired and the casing hit him.
Yeah.
And he died.
Okay.
And now it's a cult movie.
I've looked it up. It's listed as an upcoming American Western film. The release, Rust, is scheduled to be released in the United States.
It'll do better than Kevin Costner's
First look was
Western.
released on January 2nd. I guess it is still coming out.
See?
How about that?
It's going to be a little morbid, but
Yeah.
people will show up. I guarantee you. People will show up to watch it.
Yeah, I think there was a lot of people calling for Alec Baldwin's head, maybe in right-wing world.
Yeah,
because
I mean,
he's
the Trump
such
stuff.
an obnoxious kind of anti-Trump person.
And he's not even someone Democrats really want to defend. Like, you know, I don't think he should be criminally held liable.
He
but
seems like a very, very obnoxious person.
Remember the voicemails?
The voicemail.
Yeah, yelling at his daughter.
Not a classy guy, although it might be a great actor.
Yeah, he's done some great stuff.
Particularly loved him. And actually, he's played one of the most compelling major Republican figures in fiction, which is Jack Donaghy on 30 Rock.
30 Rock's a classic. My wife just binge watched me through it.
Yeah, I've re-binged it a couple times.
So, what's going to happen with Alec Baldwin?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't think he'll handle
I think he's going to be
prison very
acquitted.
well. Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. But
We're going to have to wait and see.
will he return to making movies is the big question. Because I don't think he's been...
If I was Alec Baldwin...
He's been laying low.
Yeah, if I was Alec Baldwin at this point, I would take my money and I would go to some island somewhere and just enjoy life. Like, I don't understand these people who at this point have made this much money. Like, he's now on trial for involuntary manslaughter. Like, after this... What do you do?
You are useless, Alec Baldwin. Did you ever see that movie?
So I think he's going to come back. Maybe he'll come back as Trump on SNL in the fall.
He was not very good as Trump, I didn't think.
You didn't like it?
Oh, I found it totally not compelling at all. Who played Trump before him? It was Daryl Hammond.
Yeah.
That was good. It was a little subtler.
Yeah,
Alec Baldwin was just doing the most obvious kind of... There was no finesse to it. It was lazy. I did not think it was a good Trump impression at all. I think Daryl Hammond was way better.
Well, it's going to be interesting because you got Alec Baldwin, and you got to figure out who's going to be the new Biden. Like, this whole Hollywood scene is just going to be...
Biden's not a fun person to make fun of in that context
because
it's just kind of sad, and he doesn't
It's
have...
like beating up on your grandma.
He's not enough of a character, I guess. He's just kind of an ordinary person. What's his face, who does Bernie Sanders from Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Oh, Larry David.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
That's great. But Bernie's a funny, and Trump, who I know a lot of people hate, but
he makes for good TV.
He makes great TV. His faces, his mannerisms, the way he talks, it lends itself toward parody. It's true of Bernie Sanders too. True of they've done some good characters. Joe Biden is just boring to. He's boring to watch. It's boring to watch someone pretending to be him.
It's tough
There's nothing
to watch.
To it.
I cringe when I watch it because it's like watching a parent get older. It's like watching someone suffer through it.
Yeah. All right, we shall see what happens with Alec Baldwin. If there's any interesting updates, we will let you know in the future. But as for right now, that does it for us today on Rising. Rising Fridays will be on tomorrow, so you won't want to miss that. Thank you so much for joining us this week, Michael.
It's been great. Thanks for having me.
All right, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any of our content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we are now available anywhere you listen to podcasts. See you next week.
Take care.